Hello again, you're still at Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, the Ichikowitz Family Foundation, in partnership with Constitutional Hill, celebrates 20 years of South Africa's Constitution by unveiling a unique multimedia exhibition immortalizing people, places and events that laid the foundations for the country's democracy and made way for our Constitution. The prestigious event will take a moment to reflect on great names such as Nelson Mandela, Albert Luthuli, Oliver Tambo, Chris Hani, Bram Fischer, and so many other South African icons that contributed to the Constitution a little bit later today. I'm joined in studio, I can say, the chairman of the Ichikowitz Family Foundation, Mr. Ivor Ichikowitz himself is with us. And then quite a treat, we have the eldest daughter of a Nobel Peace Prize winner, the first one, and former ANC President, Chief Albert Luthuli, Dr. Albertina Luthuli. Very good morning to you, ma'am, and thank you for joining us here on Newsroom.
And good morning to you too, and the public out there.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to start with you, Mr. Ichikowitz. Let's go to the point of business today. It's a fine line. It's this multimedia exhibition that you're putting forward. Tell us about this prestigious event this evening.
So this event is a phenomenal opportunity to mix art with the original archive that we collected in the Ichikowitz Family Foundation's African Oral History Archive, together with original testimony from the people that were there, that led the struggle, that made the Constitution happen. And it's an opportunity to remind South Africans about this incredible achievement in the history of South Africa, and just to re-engage with our past, to celebrate what's gone well in the last 20 years, and also reflect on where we may have gone wrong as a country.
Dr. Luthuli, can I ask you, how do you reflect on what we've achieved in South Africa in the last 20 years through our wonderful Constitution?
I will start by saying the Constitution is well known to be the best in the world, or amongst the best in the world. And I think that we should sing praise to that. We know what it took to come up with that Constitution. But may I say that actually the Constitution, when I see it, it's actually born out of some of the thinking and the documents that came from the struggle itself,
yes,
like the Freedom Charter and all that. So I would say that we've tried to live up to the Constitution, because, as I say, it is actually sort of relating to a large extent to the Freedom Charter, which we already had formed ourselves, and we wanted to live it in the future. And therefore, we have a Constitution here which opens really the gates for all of us, individually and collectively, to be able to move South Africa in the direction that we feel that it will be the South Africa that we dream of. The last 20 years, yes, some progress has been made, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And if I think myself, it reminds me of what I used to hear my father say sometimes, that after we win the vote which we won in 1994, after that, we will have to put hard work. Hard work.
Yes, there is a lot of hard work.
Hard work.
Well, hard work ahead of us.
Because of the past, you know, from which we came, and particularly because you remember there was a non-violent struggle, and then it got the wing of the the armed struggle.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that now, it meant that it would have an increase in civil society going different directions.
Yeah.
So that what he was saying was that it will be more difficult than ever then to create the South Africa that we want.
Yes.
And I think I see that happening. But what it calls on all of us is that we must understand that there's hard work to be done. Yes, we have done. The poor, who really are at the center of it all,
yes,
have got some, relief. It's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that we need to go to the poor and try to lift them and not create some kind of dependency.
Yeah.
You know, that's that hard work again.
It's a fine line in creating that dependency. I wanted to come to you, Mr. Ichikowitz, and tell us a little bit about the hashtag I Am Constitution, the campaign. What is it all about? And then what's the wider vision that you'd like to achieve with this campaign?
So everything that Dr. Luthuli said is exactly what our objective is. We want to remind South Africans that the Constitution exists. It exists as a roadmap, but it brings with it a huge amount of obligation. I've heard spoken today the concept of good citizenship. And if we don't go out to our population, remind them of the hard work that went into creating the Constitution in the first place, and remind them of their obligation to continue working hard to make the Constitution a reality and to achieve what we need to achieve in the country. You know, I think the biggest mistake we made as a people is we thought the struggle ended in 1994. The truth is it only started. And what we're trying to do with the I Am Constitution, the hashtag I Am Constitution campaign, is to let South Africans, not only young South Africans, but all South Africans, re-engage with their sense of what it means, or the sense of what it means to be a good citizen. To take this incredible roadmap that our forefathers suffered for, and live it every single day. And that's what I'm trying to do, what my foundation's trying to do, and what the country should be doing en masse.
Be responsible. With rights come responsibilities.
And obligations.
Right.
Absolutely. I wanted to, Dr. Albertina, if I can take you back to your father's work, the first Nobel Peace Prize winner. Some people forget that's what Chief Albert Luthuli did. Your father's legacy, of course, it's clear for everyone to see today. How do you think he would reflect on the South Africa that we live in today?
Yeah, I would think that, as I've said already, I've alluded to it, that he would see some good. Let's start by what's good. You know, you'd see good in it. I mean, it's a way different from apartheid days.
We forget that.
We forget that.
Yes.
It's a way different from apartheid days. 1994 gave people one man, one vote.
Yes.
You know, which is what we're crying for. You know? And it gave us this constitution. You know, as I would say here, perhaps with the constitution, really, my father would perhaps look and say, rights, yes. Responsibility, very much.
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely. On that score, I'd like to ask both of you to conclude it, because we live in a unique country in South Africa. I think sometimes we forget a little bit where we come from, and that maybe clouds the way that we see the future. Tell us about the responsibilities that you're seeing that we are not upholding today, the obligations that we have, that sometimes we inflict pain on others. We want our own rights to be respected, but just in that same breath we go and burn buildings and other people's rights. How do you first, Mr. Ichikowitz, if you can reflect on that, and then maybe you conclude the discussion for us.
I think that we have achieved unbelievable things in this country in the last 22 years. I think that if you really look at where we were and where we are today, we have a huge amount to celebrate. But there are problems. There are problems in developing any young democracy. And a democracy is developed by its people, not by its leadership. And the obligation that South Africans have as citizens is to go out and live the Constitution, achieve the level of freedom and equality that the Constitution allows for, and engage constructively, be part of the solution. We love to revel in our misery in this country. It's it's a South African condition.
Yeah, we do.
But there is so much to celebrate and so much to be positive about. But we as South Africans, as citizens, need to understand that nobody is going to give us jobs, nobody is going to give us homes, nobody is going to give us education, nobody is going to give us prosperity. We need to go and work for it. We need to engage, work for it, and that's what it means to be a good citizen. Good
citizenry. In conclusion, ma'am, you have the final word. tell the young people out there in South Africa where we come from a little bit, so that they can take responsibility for this creation that so many people died for, so many people devoted their lives for and fought for. And at times it looks as if we take this very lightly. What do you say to young South Africans today?
Well, no one takes pleasure now, in hearing about those dark days. Yeah. But I would say that apartheid did do its harm, and it was tough. It was tough. For instance, I lived in the home of a leader. Yeah. My father was a leader of the African National Congress. And really, life was tough. You had no rights.
Yeah.
You had nothing. Land was removed. You couldn't, making a living for your family was a tough order, a tall order. So it goes for everything. Now, what I would like to say is that we used to say, "Aluta continue." The struggle must continue.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say now is that to the young people, there's a lot to be done. They are lucky to have not lived during the days of apartheid, and you have energy, and you have the schools open, you have education, everything is with you now, it's in your hands. You just have to go for it, but work hard.
Thank you.
And the last thing I would like to say also is that know thy neighbor, love thy neighbor.
Thank you very much.
That will help the purpose of integration.
Yep. Thank you very much. A sobering thought this morning. Mr. Ichikowitz, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Albertina, thank you for coming in and giving us your views, quite frankly, this morning here on the Newsroom Show. Thank you, and all the best.
I think we should end by saying, "Aluta continua."
Yes, the struggle is there.
The struggle continues.
The struggle continues. The struggle never ended. We all have to fight. We all have to fight injustice every day in our lives. Thank you for joining us, and all the best with tonight's function. I know it will be a landmark event. There'll be lots of dignitaries, and all the best with that. Thank you for coming as well this morning, man.